action. This is a very relaxed. Okay, Jason's in my dreams now. Because, get it? Because we're talking about Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. The whole fucking collection. And by the whole, I mean just some of them. This has 8 movies. Do you know how annoying that is? You know, for a film buff like myself who likes to kind of complete collections, we have the Friday the 13th collection, which has 8 films. The first 8 films. Because no one likes Jason Goes to Hell, and Jason X is very meme, so I guess they don't have the rights for it, and hence it ain't on the Blu-ray. And then we have Freddy vs. Jason. I haven't watched that one yet. I might, just to add an extra little snippet to this video, but this video is already going to be quite long, so I don't really know if I want to do that as a combination of, hey, let's look at the Freddy vs. Jason film after I've watched Friday the Nightmare on Elm Street series again, because I watched them all last year. I probably will do a review on those eventually. Or I might do an individual review for Freddy vs. Jason. I don't know yet. That's tricky, because it's like, do I do them in the Jason video, or do I do it in Freddy video? Or do I just ignore it completely, like most fans want to do? I don't know. Anyway, hi, I'm Taylor Creations. Welcome to a calm and relaxed talk about the Friday the 13th franchise. This includes my reviews for Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th Part 2, Friday the 13th Part 3, 3D, Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter, Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. I cannot comment on The Final Friday. I can comment on Jason X, as I have actually seen it. It was the first Friday movie I ever saw. Freddy vs. Jason is still up in the air. So yeah, let's break out my reviews. So this is a series of videos I do where I look at a whole entire franchise of films, or a series of films, and review them. I'm not going to review the remakes that came in the 2000s. So sorry about that if that annoys anyone. And I will also include a ranking of the 9 films that I have watched. I might, just to make it more fun, because I can't watch, Jason Goes to Hell. I can't get a copy of it. I'm sorry about that, but no one wants to supply it anywhere, so... And most of my friends, actually every one of my friends who have watched the film, say, don't do it to yourself. It's terrible. There's a lot of franchises to get through, so I might do this once a month or once every few months. Right now I'm doing it twice this month, because this today, is apparently Friday the 13th of December 2019. aka when you're hopefully watching this now. Probably not. But the idea is that this comes out on Friday the 13th, in Australia at least, at 12 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, because welcome to Australia. We are ahead of time for those who live in other countries. So it may seem like I'm doing this on Thursday the 12th, but I'm not. And I know it's December, not October, but it wasn't the Friday the 13th in October. Anyway, so let's talk about them. Let's start with Friday the 13th. 1980 came with the wondrous Friday the 13th, directed by Sean S. Cunningham, who I don't think wrote it. No, Victor Miller wrote it. Whoever the hell that is. So this is a 1980 film. It's only 95 minutes. That's not too bad. Most of these are pretty short like that, short and sweet. And what did I say? As per usual with my reviews, I give you my star rating with a poster usually on this side or where I am now, but usually I'm on that side there, just I've got a lot of movies here. We had a party earlier, it doesn't matter. I give my rating out of 5 stars. All of these come from my Letterboxd reviews. I read out my quote because I like to grab a quote from the movie, either something that sticks out for me or something that just sticks out on the IMDb, because most of the quotes in movies aren't memorable. And then I will read out my review, maybe give a little of a personalized thing outside of that, and then we'll just keep going. So Friday the 13th, I gave 3 out of 5 stars. The quote, of course, "You're doomed if you stay," because Old Man Jenkins, he's a nutbag. No, it's not actually his name, but we all like the Scooby-Doo dude for Old Man Jenkins. Anyway, okay, so what did I say? I may have known who the killer was. Spoilers, I guess, it's Jason's mother. How one of the camp counselors died, through the chest. Who was that? Rip Kevin Bacon. And the classic boat moment, but I was pleasantly surprised by everything else that I didn't know. The film is interesting. It's just kill everyone for almost no reason. No reason for almost every single character, regardless of the kill the counselor mindset, because there are people who aren't counselors who die in this movie. The character building and growth, not really, doesn't need it. Who cares? Friday the 13th, it's a new trope. But the characters are relevantly fleshed out enough. I mean, you get enough of their personalities, but it's not like you're going to get an in-depth backstory for each character. You're not really going to care because it's the 80s. All we want to see is people being murdered because we are already seen that on the streets. Now we want to see it in the sheets. Hoo-hoo. Yeah, so there's not really much for character building and growth, but the characters are relevantly fleshed out enough, as in, you know who they are, even if it doesn't matter as to why any of them die. Like, it's not like there's a thematic reason for any of them to die. In this case, I put, for example, the cook, but to be fair, because the cook is the first person you meet in the film, and outside of the 2 camp counselors who die having sex, in the prologue in the 50s or whatever, and then you're in the 80s, and then the camp counselor's hitchhiking, and then one of the hitchhiking person who picks them up ends up killing them. That being, of course, Mrs. Voorhees. It's definitely an interesting take on the slasher genre, and I'm keen to dive into the rest of the franchise. Also, credit to where credit is due: good soundtrack, decent effects, great twist. Now, of course, everyone knows the twist that in Friday the 13th, it was the mother of Jason Voorhees. And the first one's, it's not bad. It seems like a low-budget horror film, and they pretty much all are. They get more and more money as the franchise goes along, and they get weird-ass with their effects. Some of them being extraordinary, especially the practical effects by Tom Savini, who I believe also worked on Friday the 13th Part 1. Makeup. He did makeup in this one. Tom Savini being a very big makeup dude. You might know him from, Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead. A lot of those. He's done some really good ones, especially for Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Really, his whole list is incredible for the amount of movies he's done. He's even an actor, too. He's been in a lot of Tarantino films, but he was also in Dawn of the Dead, and he was in From Dusk Till Dawn. Apparently, he was in Friday the 13th as well, but I don't recall him being in Friday the 13th. Was he really in Friday the 13th? Kill a Knife uncredited. Oh, okay, that's convenient, because most of the time, the only time when the actress who plays Miss Pamela Voorhees, Betsy Palmer, she really only is there when she's on screen. They never actually really have her doing any of the kills or any of the stalking, which makes it who could this killer be? Is it a guy? Is it a girl? It's never really questioned, is it a girl, but it's always questioned, who could it be? And, I mean, the film's fine. It's a generic narrative of, camp counselors are waiting to set up a camp for, the kids who are coming in a few days, and they're kind of having their own parties and stuff. They're getting on with the sexy parts and swimming in the water and all the kind of stuff. And then they just all miraculously die in different ways. Some of them very creative, some of them becoming staples of the franchise, like people hanging from trees and shit. And so people just stumbling in and be like, oh my god, it's a dead person. Or, oh my god, these people are having sex. Oh, spooky. Cool. So let's just move on to the next one. 1981. Friday the 13th Part 2, directed by Steve Miller. Steve Miner. Written by... Doesn't matter, Ron Kurz. Okay, cool. What did I do for my review? Bum 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 bum. It's dramatic. 3 stars. The quote, nice night. The response, yeah, for a duck. I think it's because it's raining and ducks like rain. I don't know. I can't really remember. These movies are kind of... I wouldn't say that they're forgettable per se. It's just that you can kind of forget them, which I guess is kind of fun as well, because you kind of get the general idea of what the narrative is, but you forget how some people die most of the time, or who most of the characters are, because again, not very memorable stuff. And so, like, this isn't like, let's say, Nightmare on Elm Street, which, for most of this franchise, has very creative... I mean, yeah, Friday the 13th has very creative kills as well, but for the most part, you really memorize Nightmare on Elm Street over Friday the 13th. But Friday the 13th has its charm, it has its quirk. It's like the same thing every film, but sometimes a thing's a bit different here, or a thing's a bit different there. The narrative, or the excuses to why the hell the film exists. And it's fun. Like, I'm not going to tear down this franchise and be like, oh, it's all shit and whatever. It's like, arguably, yeah, it's all shit, but it's like, it's 80s slasher horror movies. You're not expecting fucking gold, you know? I knew what I was expecting when I went into watching these movies. Did I still get bored by some of them? Yes. Did I still have fun with a lot of them? Yes. Oh my god, yes. But yeah, they're not overly great, and sometimes I'm wondering, oh, I like this character, I hope that... Oh no, they're dead! Oh no, the guy in the wheelchair, he was just about to get laid! You know, poor guys. Anyway, and this franchise loves its flashbacks. Like, it starts every movie pretty much with a flashback thing explaining what happened in the previous movie, or at some stage in the movie, someone explains what happens in the previous movies, or you get a montage of the different kills and Jason, and by after the final chapter, we just forget about Betsy Palmer altogether, because it's like, fuck her, we don't need that Lady Voorhees, we need Jason back. So Friday the 13th Part 2, Pamela is dead. She got cut her head off. Yeah, spoilers, but at the same time, it's pretty cool, especially in the uncut version where you actually see it happen. It's great. So what do they say for Friday the 13th Part 2? So it's similar enough but different enough to the first one that it can at least be disassociated when examining the whole franchise. Like, the first one has Pamela, but this one has Jason in a fucking potato sack. The first half, though particularly boring and uneventful, does doze itself with kills and goofy character moments that keeps you watching, even if the whodunit plot is pointless. The second half just becomes a good old-fashioned kill the teens who are either naked or having sex or are about to have sex. The final chase scene, when Jason is revealed with his iconic potato bag mask, of course, is fun and creative, especially in conjunction to the final chase scene in the film. Overall, it's not a bad sequel, and definitely whets my appetite for more of these Jason-led slashes. I can't really remember what happens in Jason in Friday Part 2 outside of... Now, it's Jason, it's the same film. It's just someone stalking people, and then by the end of the film, like, you get this whole, oh, it's a dude in a potato sack, and he's coming after you, but then every time you hit him or stab him or shoot him, he comes back after you. And then they find the whole shrine to his mother, and you get the whole explanation of who the mother was and all this kind of stuff. And even Betsy Palmer, you know, the actress, comes back to, like, does this weird visual thing, and it's kind of cool. So, again, same kind of film, but just a little bit different, and nicely different. But then, of course, we have Friday the 13th Part 3. Again, directed by Steve Miner, who most of the fans agree, and I guess I do as well, is that Sean Cunningham is an interesting director, but the horror-led part of it is definitely Steve Miner. He definitely, is a better director for the horror. This is a 95-minute long film from, obviously, 1982, and it has, of course... Is this the one that has our favorite actor in it? Fuck, I guess it isn't. Damn. No, of course it isn't. This is the 3D one. Oh, it's 3D. Oh, shit. So I gave this one a whipping 3.5 stars out of 5. Oof, my hair just went right off the roof. My quote is a two-parter quote kind of thing. It's a back and forth. How come you never scream when we have sex? Give me something to scream about. Oi, I liked it. You know, you can't just go the first line or the second line. They buddy up. It's like a good buddy comedy. You can't have one without the other. You can't have cheese without having ham. That's not even a buddy comedy. It's just food. So yeah, damn, that 3D is sure something. Thank God I kept my Spy Kids 3D glasses. I'm not even joking, I have them. Alright, excuse me, I'm going to, yes, that's right, it is 3D time. Everything is blue and red. So these are from, Spy Kids 3D. I watched this as a kid, and because it came with the actual 3D glasses, and this is the last one we have. And so I'm like, oh shit, how am I going to watch this movie? And of course, I had the 3D glasses, so they had it in 3D, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to watch it in 3D, because I looked up how should I watch this movie, and the Blu-ray.com people were like, well, there's a bit of transferred of like delay because of course with the whole merging it to 2D aspect doesn't really work, so it's best to watch it in 3D and you get everything coming out at you and it's very fucking weird. So I will admit, though the gimmicks for the 3D were fun, they were somewhat annoying to watch. However, the depth of the image was quite something to look at, so you did get a good perspective of what's happening in it. Like, the world feels 3D, because it's not just, look, it's a harpoon gun, look, it's someone's knife, and this, and that, and this, and that, and that. So they do play around with the 3D elements to it, of, you know, all the gimmicky stuff, but then it's kind of nice to see the world so rounded and fleshed out, which I think is the best use of 3D. Like, the gimmick, of course, of having things come out of the screen is, ooh, look, it's exciting. But then to have, like, to actually be able to see into the world is also really cool and really nice. Overall, this is my favorite of the first three, just due to the fun characters and fun kills. I'll probably watch this in 2D next time, as I did some skimming to see if it was worth it post watching the 3D version, and it doesn't seem like too bad of an alternative, outside of just some color differences and stuff. But at the same time, all I'm seeing is blue and red, and it's so dichotomized in my eyes that it's very trippy. Like, if I go like that, it's more red and then more blue, and then it's just such a weird mix. It is really, really trippy. To be honest, though, my only real problem with the film, outside of the bad acting, was the homage-like ending to the first film. And that's where you kind of get more of the stigma of what these films become. They end up becoming, it's like the Terminator franchise. They just become themselves over and over. Like, oh, let's just kind of reference this through this moment, or we're going to have all this expository crap, whether through flashbacks or whatever, to the rest of it, to like what we've already seen. And then this one ends like they all try to end with a dream sequence. Like, of course, the first one, you have the famous one on the boat where Jason comes out of the water as a kid. The second one, it's Jason comes back after being shot and attacks the girl, but we don't know if and the guy, but we don't know if he survived or if Jason survived. But we see her later, and she's kind of going crazy. And then the next film, and most of these films as well, ignore the idea of who survived in the previous film. I think it's maybe only really the second one where they're like, oh, well, we know that she survived, so Jason like comes back for revenge at the start of the second one to kill the main character from the survivor from the first film. And then in the third movie, we just kind of completely forget about what happened to other characters anyway. They really don't have much connection outside of Jason and Camp Crystal Lake, and Camp Counselors and stuff, and some similar deaths here and there. Which apparently was meant to be like kill, 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 mum, 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 or whatever. So it's kind of weird. Yeah. So the 3D is interesting. I would definitely suggest watching it in 3D, to be honest. It's pretty fucking fun. It's trippy as all hell. Jason finally puts on his hockey mask because one of the other characters is just toying around with it, and he just picks it up and puts it on, and suddenly, boom, He is Jason. I believe this is the one with the kid on the in the wheelchair, but I can't recall. It might no, I think that's actually the second one. It's one of the most famous kills of the franchise, that's for sure. Now let's move on to 1984's release of Friday the 13th, the final chapter. That's it, this last film, we're done. Okay, Joseph Zito, let's fucking finish this baby off. And what did I say about this piece of masterwork? I love this film. This film is fucking fantastic. My quote, I'll tell you where I'm going. I'm going crazy. My review, it's just Crispin dancing, the twin through the window, the mask collection. It's perfect even when the series cannot be perfect. Gracefully the best one, and hot damn is it's the best payoff to a free film setup that I've ever seen, worth every shadow of glass. That's right, I gave this baby 4 stars out of 5. Hoy! Is it my favorite one? Maybe it could be. We'll see about that. But this one is definitely fun as shit. Crispin Glover, who most people know from something to the future, Back to the Future. He dances and it's hilarious. And I even watched a behind the scenes thing where it just has multiple takes of him dancing because it was just hilarious and it's just what he does. Honestly, it's what's worth watching the film for. The effects for Jason are great. It's great to see Jason in 2D for once. The mask is amazing. The effects, the everyone, even the characters are fun. Like, everyone is pretty much fun and has their own gimmick and stuff. You have the next door neighbors with the daughter and the mother and the son. The son loves fucking masks and makes them, and it's like one of the characters like comes in and has like a small romance with the main female lead, and he's like, this is Jason Voorhees, and just reveals the whole plot of like what happened in the past 3 films, because he's like, my sister was attacked and I think almost killed by him, or maybe she was killed by him, and he's like, I'm here to get my revenge. And it's fucking crazy. I can't go through the plot of these movies because for the most part I kind of forget what happens, but at the same time, they're all the same. People go to Camp Crystal Lake for some reason, whether they're camp counselors or now they live there or whatever it be. There's always teenagers involved because it's a summer holiday vacation or some shit. And then Jason comes along and just starts killing them. Whether he's been resurrected, or whether he's being resurrected again. So that was great. This one ends with Jason being killed properly, his head gets exploded and everything, and the kid pretends, like, shaves his head and shit to pretend to be a young Jason and whatever, and it's fucking weird. The kills in this one are particularly great. The sex scenes as well, particularly great. The twins, I love them. Everything about this film I love. And that's really all I'm going to say about it. If anything, I'd recommend that one, but you kind of, again, it's as a payoff for the past 3 films. If these were the only films in the series, this quadrilogy, it would be the best send-off. And that's obviously what they wanted it to be. But then they made 1985, Friday the 13th, A New Beginning, directed by Danny Steinman. Now this one, the kid who plays, I believe it's Tommy. So he's Tommy in the previous film, but who was he played by originally? Corey Feldman played Tommy in the final chapter. He's the one who gets Jason killed. Now in this one, he's haunted and traumatized by Jason so much that he goes into a psych ward, and now he's in his like late teens. And then I think, do they resurrect Jason, or does he just happen to come back to life? It's really weird, and I can't really remember much of what happens in it. It's just a bunch of like loony kids who like have problems and just live like in a retreatment home next to Crystal Lake, and just shit gets wild and people start dying, and I honestly can't remember what happens in this movie. I remember the fact that the main character is Tommy. I can't really remember much else. What did I say for my review? I gave it 2.5 stars. My quote, "You fucking dildo, eat your goddamn slop." My review is, it's weird and tries to handle psychological trauma and subtext, but it's ultimately just another slasher with decent moments that's mostly flat. This one was a disappointment. I expected something really more from the franchise when it comes to this one, but this was just like, oh, we have the money, let's kind of bring back Jason. It's pretty terrible. And honestly, I think it's one of the only ones worth skipping completely. Yeah, no, wholeheartedly. Like, the first one is good and sets up the narrative. The second one sets up Jason. The third one really introduces Jason. The fourth one is terrific. The fifth one is garbage. Skip it. Because you know what the filmmakers did? Oh, wait, what? 1986? Tom McLaughlin, I guess? Of course, part 6. Jason Lives. Hot damn. Hot friggity diggity doggity damn. Tommy is back, yes, but oh wait, what's that? We forgot about the previous film? This is a direct sequel to the final chapter, the fucking retcon the previous movie? Oh shit, dog. Let's do that shit. I hated the previous one. Let's go straight from final chapter to this, and guess what? That's right, kids. We found the best movie in this franchise, Jason Lives. It is my favorite one in the franchise, I'm sorry, but it is. I gave this film a whopper of a 4.5 stars. Fucking hell. Like, I think I double featured this one with the previous one, with A New Beginning, and I was so disappointed because A New Beginning was so crap. But then this one, it's like, hey, what if Tommy isn't a fucking psycho, and, like, he still makes masks? Actually, no, the mask was still referenced in the previous one, but, like, instead of going to a psych ward thing, he's like, he's a drifter and stuff, and he accidentally resurrects Jason Voorhees, and he's like, oh shit, I just resurrected Jason Voorhees, and he runs around town just saying like, I fucking resurrected Jason Voorhees, and then the cops are like, dude, get the fuck out of jail, so they arrest him, and then Jason goes around killing people, and then they have to go and find who's killing people, and then they realize, fuck, it's Jason, and they go to the camp, because of course there are new camp counselors at a new camp at Crystal Lake, and there are kids there, and it's like, oh shit, like, Tommy now has to get out with the sheriff's daughter, and they have to get to the camp. She's a camp counselor, by the way. The sheriff's daughter. They have to get to the camp and save the kids from Jason while he's killing the other camp counselors. Oh my god, this one is such a memorable plot. And it is freaking amazing. And even the ending, it's not a great ending. They more or less, I guess, spoiler alert, they drown him more or less. They chain him to the bottom of of Camp Crystal, of the lake, which is, I mean, it's poetic enough, it works, and it's honestly a good conclusion per se, but I mean, so is the final chapter. So what can I say about this film? So my quote, some folks have a strange idea of entertainment. My review is quite long, actually. I'll take Resurrection of Jason over Ghost Jason any day. So yeah, the previous film, that's why I couldn't remember how Jason came back. The previous film, Jason was a ghost. It's really dumb. But this film, he's resurrected, of course. Through lightning and thunder. Yeah. 80s. I gotta say, this was amazing. It's about time this franchise went full parody of itself. The film is both a parody of itself whilst also reflecting on what made it great, and it was great. The kills were great, the characters were interesting enough, and the ones who were just there to die were still quite fun too. The editing was nice, the production design and special effects were nice. The end credits song was also great. I don't remember what it is currently, but I mean, if I say it was great in the past, that means it's great. Even the opening title card was a slap and a bang. It just, boom, Jason Lives, explosions. It's pretty great. I'd like to look at this and A New Beginning as two sides of the same coin. In one universe, Tommy went crazy and was stalked by copycat Jason and ghost Jason until he became the killer. Yeah, it's also a weird twist ending that Tommy becomes the killer in A New Beginning at the end of it, but it's like still really dumb and doesn't make any sense, and I guess they wanted Tommy to be the killer for the rest of the franchise, but everyone hated it, so they're like, okay, let's redo that, but make it better this time. In the other, Tommy is so haunted by Jason that he accidentally gets him resurrected, continuing the crazy murder spree. Nice. As much as the final chapter was fun and the most entertaining, I don't think it really tops the splendor that is Jason Lives. If this were the final film, I'd be happy with it, as it brings Jason so full circle that it's laughable, clever, and honestly, it makes me wonder why they never tried this formula before. Totally worth the watch, and totally my new favorite Friday the 13th film. And what can I say? It's great. But what comes next? That is a frackety-dackety good question. 1988. The New Blood. Friday the 13th, Part 7. Directed by John Carl Buechler. This one is interesting. This one goes back to the kind of regular formula, but this one's like more of a reflection of the fourth one, but still has the same formula of, it's the people who already live there, and then you have the people who have moved into the house next door kind of thing. So it's a two-house scenario. The people who have moved in are all teenagers, but the people who live in the other house, one of them got back from a psych ward because she watched her father die at the bridge at Camp Crystal Lake. However, she believes she caused it because she has, that's right, you guessed it, psychic abilities. Of course, why wouldn't you? It's the 80s. Psychic abilities are the craze, man. Haven't you seen Carrie? Oh, it's the crazy shit, man. And then while she's training kind of with her psychic powers, but also having kid problems because she's a teenager, and falling in love with this guy, and then doing the frackety-dack, and everyone else is doing the frackety-dack, but guess what? Secretly, Jason's back, because she brings him out of the water. You know, in Jason Lives, he gets buried back in the water, and she, with her mind powers, brings him back out of the water. But now he looks dead. He looks like he's disintegrated in the water, and the special effects for him are probably the best ones of the franchise. Because there's one thing that my friend Guy mentioned about this franchise is that what they really do best is the fact that, for the most part, Jason usually sustains the same injuries he's had in previous films, outside of if his head gets blown up and stuff like that. So in some films, he may not have a wound that he retrieved 2 films ago, but he will have that wound in this film, because in this film, he has the head wound, the shoulder wound, his body is like torn up, and you can see his rib cage. There is so much wrong with him. He's been so brutalized over this film franchise, and it's awesome. So what did I give this? I gave this film 3 stars. My quote, he's gonna shit. Yeah, it's a weird line. I don't know if they're actually saying that he's gonna take a poop or what. I don't know. It's he's gonna shit. I think it's like he's gonna get angry or something. It's so weird, but I was just like, okay, I'm taking that line down, that's for sure. My review. Not as bad as I expected, but still not as good as it could have been. The characters were lacking in anything really, which is usually a given with this franchise. The kills have gotten more creative, but due to restrictions, not much blood is really shed, which is disappointing because they had so many kills which you could tell that they obviously had shot more for it, but they just didn't show it. They just cut to the end of the kill. So that's disappointing, which, like, at the start you think it's like, oh, you get minor kills in cool ways, but you don't see it and your brain interprets, and you think, oh, that was cool, I can't wait to see them do that and really show it off later, as if they're playing their big cards, like, going small but ending large. But no, they just go small for the whole film because of restrictions, which sucked. Otherwise, they probably would have gone large for the whole entire film, and it probably would have been a bit better. So yeah, the story is crazy, but this franchise was knocked unconscious ages ago. The best part is probably Jason's makeup. Like, this dude is ugly and undead as ever. Props to making him match the continuity of his many defeats. Also, Tina, our protagonist, is interesting, but it felt too much like a Carrie ripoff. That being said, it was interesting to see Jason go up against a tower of telekinetic powers, because, I mean, most fans are like, oh, well, I mean, she's, like, finally a good, what do you call it, person to take on against Jason because she can actually combat him, and it's like, all right, cool, I guess. And again, you still get your generic stuff. It's not a great film, but it's not a bad sequel. I'd say of all of them, it's still worth watching. I think the only one that's not worth watching is A New Beginning. It's a waste of time, and they completely cut it out of the continuity totally. So ignore that. Watch the rest of them. But then we get to the lacking half of the franchise with Jason Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan from 1989, directed by Rob Hedden. This one you expect, oh shit, yeah, they're gonna go to Manhattan. This is gonna be the bees, frickety knees slapping. Oh, my knees are slapping. What? It's Jason on a boat for the whole movie until the last 20 minutes, pretty much? Yeah. My star rating, 3 stars out of 5. My quote, this voyage is doomed. My review, more like Jason takes a boat and has a nice fishing trip in toxic waste, because that's how they kill him. Another addition to the franchise that has interesting ideas and kills but becomes a snooze fest when it devolves into a Jason chases the survivors ordeal through the slog of Manhattan. The film was pretty meh until Jason started taking lives on the cruise, which was fun due to the claustrophobic nature of the ship. You know, as even the credits say, there's no escape. This is the music in the end of the credits. The whole ship segment from the first kill of the survivors till the part where they escape it is easily the best part of the film. It could be its own, like, half an hour, the 45-minute long short film, and it is really fun because you're getting all these character dynamics that really work because of this and that and however it be. But then you just have Jason coming along and killing a lot of them, and it's great. And like the first person he kills is like a rock star kind of person who has a guitar and is like recording a music video on the boat, and she ends up getting her head like lobbed off because of the guitar that she has. It's fucking great. It has some pretty good kills in it. But it also has this weird psychological thing with the main girl and young Jason as a kid, like the drowned version of Jason, like his spirit or something, who's like being like, help me, all this kind of stuff, and it's just like, what the hell's going on? The following period of the film, unfortunately, is just them being killed off more or less one by one in Manhattan, and which is just as lazy as characters being killed off in the woods. You know, instead of it being woods and trees and no one there to help, it's people and buildings and no one gives a shit to help because they don't understand if it's a prank or not. There are some funny moments with them being in the city, but for the most part, it starts off ugly. They're in an ugly shipping dock. Outside of the Jason scene, a big picture of a hockey mask dude, and him being like, what? That was an interesting kind of gag, but then the rest of it's just kind of really shit, and like the main character gets like drugged and almost raped until Jason kills the guys, and then she gets out because another guy comes to save her, and then it's just Jason keeps killing other people that were also on the boat that survived, that were with the main characters. And it just kind of, I mean, the fun kill would be a guy that's a boxer who is on the roof with Jason and fights him, and he keeps punching Jason until Jason just like is tired of it because Jason's just taking all these punches but isn't getting hurt. And then we cut to a different angle showing, instead of like looking from behind the boxer or like just a bit to the side so you can see his hands landing on Jason, we then cut to like a wide shot from a distance, and you just see Jason up in the distance, like kind of a silhouette with the other guy, and Jason just punches the guy's head off, and it just bounces down into the rubbish bin, and then into a just a big bin, I can't remember, a skip, and then the skip just closes, and it's like, all right, cool, that was fucking fun. But yeah, I was disappointed by the use of Jason in the city, and it just became a bland chase scene followed by character death and rinse and repeat. It's just the same stuff. It's not exactly it's the same stuff we've seen before, but more or less it's the same stuff we've seen before. And the whole them being in Manhattan doesn't really do anything. But apparently this is because like they didn't have that much of a budget, so they couldn't actually shoot that much in Manhattan. So that's why the final act is in Manhattan, but the rest of it is on a boat. But the rest of it's on a boat, and that's surprisingly the best part when they're on a boat. But yeah, the boxer's fight scene was fun, and his death especially. But again, the rest was just there with no real to it, you know. I guess the whole idea of Welcome to New York, a city where no one sleeps, probably because they are dead. That was terrible. I guess the whole idea of Welcome to New York, a city where no one sleeps, is probably because they're all dead, I guess, or just they just don't care. Too much coffee, I guess. This is the last film, of course, in my collection of the franchise, but to be fair, I don't really care to see Jason Goes to Hell the final Friday, because I've heard it's really terrible, and I've already seen Jason X. I guess next up is Jason versus Freddy. Freddy versus Jason. So I'll jump into my list, because of course I can't really per se review Jason X. I can't say anything, of course, on Jason Goes to Hell. I've just heard from everyone that it's terrible, so I guess, I mean, this one Takes Manhattan ends with him getting disintegrated in acid, kind of toxic waste, so I guess that's fine. You don't really need any more after that. If you only end up seeing the 8-film collection, that's perfectly fine. It doesn't matter. Final Friday, I don't even know what happens. It doesn't matter. I'll probably never watch it. If I do, I will probably regret it. And what do we have next? Oh yeah, Jason X. So I will go through my list of best to worst. So of course, my favorite of the franchise, Jason Lives, 4.5 stars. Followed by The Final Chapter, 4 stars. Followed by Friday the 13th Part 3, the 3D one, which I gave 3.5 stars. Then the original Friday the 13th for 3 stars. Followed by Friday the 13th The New Blood with the psychic chick for 3 stars. Jason X, I'd probably give it maybe 2.5 to 3 stars. It's the film itself I watched like a year or two ago. I remember pretty well, though. They have like Jason in some kind of facility, which is, and now it's apparently like the future, and they send it off into space, and this ship kind of encounters it, and they open it up, and it's like, oh, it's a person, let's like defreeze him, and then because it's the future, suddenly he's like whole hockey mask and everything, he like gets a metallic mask, and now he's like Cyber Jason or some shit, and he has to fight a like a half robot sex doll woman, and I have a bunch of people, and I remember there's a part where someone, I believe, gets liquid nitrogen and he punches through them or something. I don't know, it's kind of gross. The best part of the film is where, because again, he just chases people the whole movie throughout a spaceship, and doesn't have the kind of claustrophobia effect that the boat one had in Jason Takes Manhattan, which is kind of weird. And I remember he gets into a holodeck, and he just there's 2 half-naked girls in sleeping bags, and they're like messing around with him, and they're in one sleeping bag, so he picks up the sleeping bag and just beats it against a tree, which he had done in like 2 films ago, in The New Blood, I believe it was, where he picks up a girl in a sleeping bag and hits her against a tree once, and she's instantly dead. There's probably more shots of him doing that, but of course they cut it for the blood and gore factor and whatever. But it also kind of shows off how strong he is, that he can just hit someone into a tree once and they're dead. And that's pretty much it. It's not a great film. It's okay, I guess, but again, it's not really very conclusive either. Him being in space is really kind of unnecessary, and there's not real... It overcomplicates itself and tries to be too much, and of course it was released in 2001. Next up we have Jason Takes Manhattan with 3 stars, then Friday the 13th Part 2 with 3 stars. Arguably because I only put Jason Takes Manhattan ahead, same as Jason X, I only put them ahead because they've got a different kind of idea and take on it. Friday the 13th Part 2 is an okay film, and again, they're all pretty much 3-star films anyway. But it's just kind of, for me, it's very forgettable of a film. Like, I know you have Jason for the first time, and he's got the potato sack on, and there are some interesting elements, but overall the film's still kind of boring, and it's so much of a rehash of the first one that I don't really care. Um, and I think obviously I'd say Jason Takes Manhattan is probably a worse film, but because it has the whole boat segment, which is really I really liked, it just kind of made it more memorable and better. Um, and then last but not least, we have A New Beginning, which of course I gave 2.5 stars. And that's my list from best to worst of 9 of the films, because we'll never watch that other one. Alright, an extra little piece of content, I guess. So yes, I did end up actually watching Freddy vs. Jason. I've just finished it, actually. I did not look at the alternate endings and whatever, because I don't care. I liked it, actually. What did I say? I'll do as I usually do with my review. I gave it 3.5 stars. My quote was, "That goalie was pissed about something." Now, this film actually has a lot of good one-liners. They're all pretty much in good reference to, like, their own individual films, which is nice. Of course, Jason doesn't talk, so, duh. And I wrote, it feels more like an Elm Street film, which, with nice uses of, it feels more like a Elm Street film with nice uses of Jason and a strange amount of metal music, and a very naughty's costumes, as in 2000s, given that this is, 2003? Yeah. So it's like, oh, Scream was really popular. Let's, yeah, really, like, to be someone who lived in that generation of bad costumes and clothing and hairstyles and glow sticks. Wow. Overall, it was fun to see. Overall, it was fun to see Freddy again. Jason, on the other hand, felt kind of lackluster, but I mean, it was pretty cool to see him, get some kills in there, which is arguably what he's best at, as it is. I mean, narrative-wise, Freddy is like, everyone's forgotten about me, so I'm gonna bring Jason back to life. This is kind of a sequel to Jason X, but not really, because in Jason X, he just, at the end of it, I believe, he loses all of his regular shitty gear and lands in the lake of Camp Crystal Lake, and suddenly he's buried in the ground in this one, so I don't know why, it's weird. So Freddy wakes him up and is like, go to Elm Street, there are some really naughty kids there, and then he fucks some shit up. And, the cops are like, shit, we can't let them know it was Freddy, and whatever, and all this stuff, which is very Elm Street vibes, which is nice. Stylistically, it's very 2000s, very, what's that other one, Final Destination, I feel like. It feels like that with Scream, like, it has a very, very blue tint, but not like James Cameron blue tint. This is like blue tint that, like, just everything is blue, pretty much for almost no reason. Interesting characters as well. You get to, there's a lot of development for them as well, which is very Elm Street again. You get to know and kind of understand the characters, who they are, their connections, all this kind of stuff. And when they die, sometimes you feel like, oh no, but then most of the time you're just like, cool. You don't really care about the characters that much, but you care enough to continue watching the film, which is good. It's Elm Street usually does that kind of thing. Most of the time in Elm Street, you have really good characters, and this time you have mostly mediocre side characters, but the main characters are decent enough, I guess. Definitely better than most of the Friday the 13th characters, that's for sure. So, of course, you have the whole Freddy thing, and it's good to see Robert Englund playing Freddy again. That was really cool. There's some good practical effects as well in this film. Unfortunately, there's a lot of pretty ugly CGI effects, but they're not distractingly bad. They're just kind of like, yeah, well, they tried at least, You saw what they were going for. Sometimes they would merge it with practical as well. Like, there's one part where a guy's feet get, like these blood veins just crawl into his feet. But then, like, it cuts to the next shot, and the next shot, they're practical, and it's literally there, which was nice. So, it's nice that they were able to do that. So, it's like, oh, we'll use the CGI to set it up, but we'll pay it off through practical effects. And it had a lot of practical effects, which is very Freddy Krueger, which I liked. I mean, it's kind of very Friday the 13th as it is, given that Friday the 13th never really went full CGI and never did, and Freddy never didn't do that either. So It wasn't bad. The fight sequences between Freddy and Jason, when, of course, Jason just starts killing everyone, and Freddy's like, hey, what, dude? You're stealing my kills. I will admit, that whole sequence, that rave thing in the crop circle, weirdest whole place to have a goddamn rave, but a good scene of Jason just killing people, that was cool. And I like how that really brought the battle against Freddy and Jason pretty much to life. Um, and what else was there? So then suddenly, after a whole spiral of events happens, now Jason is in Freddy's dream, um, and they're fighting, and they're really able to analyze the characters and what makes them kind of tick and how to kill them. Not really Freddy per se, but it's like you pretty much know it's fire. But this one's like, oh, we make it more obvious that it's water is his main thing that kills him or scares him or whatever, makes him feel like a kid again, in the worst way possible, because of course he drowned as a kid. So they nicely touch on the backstories of both Freddy and Jason, allowing you time to know who they are, get a sense of their characters, realize that Jason has no character and all he does is kill people, and Freddy has a lot of character, but unfortunately doesn't kill that many people in this film. Seriously, he hardly kills anyone in this film. It kind of sucks. But I mean, it's, you get what you give in a way. But then when suddenly, Krueger, I mean, outside of the weird CGI thing of, Freddy doing all this thing that makes Jason go around like a bloody pinball thing, it's kind of comical. I like the use of the big red tint, and then suddenly, they're kind of on almost neutral terms, and it becomes green, and then it goes back to... I don't even know why it really goes to green. It's kind of a weird color choice, because it's not like it's blue like Jason's winning or anything. They're kind of just neutral now, as if someone's hit the pause button and green represents the color of pausing or something. It's weird. But then of course you have the girl go into the dream, and then they bring Freddy out, and suddenly it's Freddy versus Jason in the real world. And this was a little bit more, it starts off pretty well, but then when they're finally outside doing their final battle, it's kind of lame in a way, but, you're just waiting for the main characters to set the bridge on fire and kill them both, and then, of course, it doesn't matter, because even though they die and get thrown in the water, they, of course, come back, 2 minutes later, and they're oh, look, we're still alive, let's make a sequel. That will never happen, unfortunately. I guess. I don't know, it's hard to say. They could have gone down. I feel like they would have been Freddy vs. Jason Requiem. That's definitely the title that they would have gone for. Either way, still, it's definitely a worthwhile watch. I think it's probably best to watch if you're doing a double binge of the Elm Street series and the Friday the 13th series. I don't think you should watch it if you haven't seen either of the franchises. I don't think it's worth not seeing one, or if you've seen maybe the first few of the Friday films, or at least the first four maybe, to really understand who Jason is, and then maybe you've seen the first 1 to 3 films for the Freddy franchise, you get to know who Freddy is, but realistically you want to watch both franchises, then divert right into this one. And I mean, it's not bad. It's a pretty decent film. I mean, it's not that long either. It's almost 100 minutes. So, yeah. And it's pretty decently done. It's probably what you'd expect for a 2003's kind of action horror film. So, yeah. It's not overly scary, actually. It's not scary at all, which is disappointing. But it is pretty cool just to see these guys go at it. I mean, the fans will like it, of course. So, yeah. Okay, and that's it. So, thanks all for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe for more. There should be playlists on the side here for other Come and Relax talks. I've done the Alien franchise and the Fast and Furious franchise, and soon, if not next week, will be the Terminator franchise. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you have any recommendations, feel free to chuck them in those comments. And that's about it. Ciao.